I had heard a lot about this game, Minecraft. Many young people seem to enjoy it immensely. From what I gathered, it looked like a digital version of Legos. The entire world was made of blocks. It seemed quite simple on the surface. Perhaps I thought it was a bit too simple. What could possibly be the big attraction? I must admit, I was quite skeptical. Facts are, after all, facts. And blocks? Well, they are just blocks. Or so I initially believed before I started my adventure. People apparently spend countless hours inside this blocky universe. They dedicate their time to building elaborate structures. They also fight various digital monsters. It all sounded like a significant investment of time. Possibly, it was just a distraction from more important matters. Yet millions upon millions of individuals play this game regularly. So there had to be some underlying reason for its popularity. I decided it was my duty to investigate this phenomenon. Strictly for research purposes, you understand. And perhaps to better comprehend the younger generation. My expectations for Minecraft were, to put it mildly, quite low. I anticipated graphics that would be clunky and outdated. I braced myself for an interface that would be confusing and difficult to navigate. I genuinely believed I would become bored with the experience very quickly. I am, as you know, a very busy individual. I have many important responsibilities and tasks to attend to. Wasting precious time is certainly not something that features on my daily agenda. Nevertheless, I had committed myself to giving this game a fair try. So I prepared myself for this digital expedition. I managed to clear a small portion of my usually packed schedule. I consciously told myself to approach this with an open mind. As open a mind as one can reasonably maintain when faced with a world constructed entirely out of cubes. The moment had arrived. It was time to determine if Minecraft was merely a frivolous waste of time. Or, conversely, if there was some concealed stroke of genius hidden within its blocky depths. The great Minecraft experiment was officially about to commence. The game finally loaded onto my computer screen. And yes, it was indeed very blocky. Extremely blocky, in fact, confirming my initial visual assessment. My digital avatar, my character, materialized into this new world. There was no tutorial to greet me. There was no helpful guide offering assistance. It was just me, alone, and a seemingly endless expanse of cubes stretching in every direction. My very first thought was quite simple. Okay, what am I supposed to do now? This was not what I would call an intuitive start, not in the slightest. I generally prefer clear, concise instructions. I began to experiment by clicking various things on the screen. I noticed that my character's hand moved in response. It appeared to be performing a punching motion. So, I tried punching a nearby tree. To my surprise, leaves began to break off. Then a block of wood detached from the tree trunk. This was interesting. So the first action in this world is an act of minor violence? A somewhat primitive approach, one might argue. But undeniably, it seemed to produce results. I successfully collected my first block of wood. This felt like progress, however small. The world that unfolded before me was truly vast. There were rolling hills, dense forests, and bodies of water. And of course, everything was composed of these ubiquitous blocks. It possessed a strangely peaceful and serene quality, at least initially. That was, until I came to the stark realization that I had no explicit goals. The game had not provided me with any objectives to achieve. This was a true sandbox environment, in every sense of the word. You are entirely responsible for creating your own purpose here. A libertarian's paradise, some commentators might even suggest. I decided to wander around a little to get my bearings. I soon encountered some of the local wildlife. I saw blocky sheep, and even blockier cows. They just roamed about the landscape, seemingly without a care in the world. They appeared entirely unconcerned by my sudden presence in their blocky domain. Out of curiosity, I tried punching one of the sheep. It emitted a distinct noise, and then it dropped a block of wool. Alright then, so punching animals is also a feature of this game. This Minecraft world certainly has some rather interesting priorities for its inhabitants. After some fumbling, I managed to figure out the inventory system. It presented itself as a simple grid on the screen. I discovered I could move items around within this grid. The pieces of wood I had laboriously punched from trees were stored there. I also noticed a smaller 2x2 crafting grid. What was the purpose of this, I wondered. I experimentally tried placing a block of wood into it. Magically, it transformed into 4 wooden planks. Aha! so you can combine items to create new things. This is a system. I appreciate well-designed systems. Then, a significant change occurred in the game world. Night began to fall. The previously bright sky gradually grew dark. Very dark indeed. Suddenly, the peaceful and serene world I had been exploring was not so peaceful anymore. Strange and unsettling noises started to emanate from the shadows. I heard distinct groans and other unfamiliar sounds. I even saw pairs of glowing eyes staring at me from the distance. This development was entirely unexpected, and, I must admit, it was slightly alarming. My blocky paradise was rapidly transforming into a potential nightmare. A peculiar green creature suddenly appeared before me. It had no arms, and it possessed a strangely sad-looking face. Then, it began to make an ominous hissing sound. It moved closer and closer towards my character. And then, without any further warning, boom! It exploded. The explosion blew up a significant chunk of the landscape, and unfortunately, it also blew up me. I had died. My very first death in Minecraft. So it became abundantly clear that not all creatures in this world are friendly. That was a lesson learned. Learned the hard way, as they say. This game, I quickly realized, has tangible consequences. Real ones, even in a digital sense. If your character dies, you risk losing your collected items. Or at least some of them, depending on the game mode. You are therefore required to be careful and vigilant. You absolutely must learn the rules of this new environment. The fundamental rules of survival. It was glaringly obvious to me that I needed some form of shelter, and I needed to construct it very fast. The night was demonstrably dangerous. These are the facts of Minecraft life. Section 4. Strategic Survival, my approach to overcoming obstacles. My immediate and most pressing challenge was clear surviving the night. To do this, I understood that I needed a house, or, at the very least, I needed a secure hole to hide in. I began the rather undignified process of digging into the side of a dirt hill. I was using only my character's bare hands for this task. It was an incredibly slow and tedious process, but I knew it was absolutely necessary for my continued existence. This was about fulfilling basic human needs, shelter from the metaphorical storm, or in this specific case, shelter from exploding green creatures. Eventually, I managed to carve out a small, rudimentary dirt cave. It was objectively ugly. It was undeniably cramped and uncomfortable, but, most importantly, it was safe from the dangers lurking outside. I quickly sealed the entrance with more dirt blocks. Then, I simply waited inside for daylight to return. This experience taught me a valuable lesson in patience. It also taught me the profound value of simple security. Sometimes a humble dirt hut can feel like a majestic castle, especially if it successfully keeps the monsters at bay. That is pure, unadulterated logic. The following morning, I knew I needed to acquire tools. Punching trees and dirt with bare hands was painfully inefficient. I soon learned how to craft a crafting table. This single item opened up a whole new range of possibilities. I could now craft a wooden pickaxe. I could make a wooden axe. I could even fashion a wooden shovel. These simple tools made the process of gathering essential resources much, much faster. It is a clear demonstration that technology improves productivity. This principle holds true even within the confines of a block-based video game. I also learned about the hunger mechanic in the game. My character possessed a hunger bar, visible on the screen. This bar gradually depleted over time as I performed actions. I understood that I had to find a source of food. I reluctantly hunted some of those blocky animals I had encountered earlier. I then figured out how to build a furnace to cook their meat. This was yet another new mechanic to learn and master. This game was proving to be a constant process of learning, and, crucially, a process of adapting to new challenges. If you failed to do so, you would not last very long. Section 5. Building and Beyond, the creative core of Minecraft. With the immediate concerns of basic survival now somewhat handled, I looked to improve my situation. My cramped dirt hut was certainly not a viable long-term solution. It was, quite frankly, a bit of an embarrassment to my architectural sensibilities. I desired something better, something more permanent, constructed from wood, or perhaps even from sturdy stone if I could find some. This game, I was beginning to realize, allows you to build almost anything you can imagine, provided, of course, that you have the necessary resources. and an ample supply of patience, I started to plan the construction of a small, modest cabin, my first proper structure. I began by gathering wood. Lots and lots of wood, as it turned out. I then cleared a suitable patch of land near my initial spawn point. I carefully laid out a foundation for my new home. It was a very simple design, truth be told. Just 4 walls and a flat roof. But it was going to be mine. I was building it myself, with my own 2 blocky digital hands. There is a profound and undeniable satisfaction to be found in the act of creation. This is, I believe, a fundamental human truth. The actual building process itself was surprisingly engaging. I found myself meticulously placing each block with care. I made sure the walls were perfectly straight and aligned. I eventually added a functional door. Later, I even managed to add windows, once I figured out how to smelt sand into glass. It felt very much like solving a complex 3-dimensional puzzle. A puzzle that offered almost endless possibilities for its solution. My finished cabin was certainly modest by any grand standard, but it represented a significant step forward. It was a solid start. This creative aspect of Minecraft is undeniably powerful. You are not merely surviving against the elements and monsters. You are actively shaping the world around you to your liking. You are, in a very real sense, expressing yourself through your creations. I have seen images of what other people build. Some construct giant sprawling castles. Others recreate entire cities from the real world or from fiction. The potential for creativity here is truly immense. It clearly taps into a basic and deeply ingrained human desire. The fundamental desire to build, to create order out of apparent chaos. Section 6. Unexpected Wisdom. What this block game can teach us. I initially approached this game expecting a very simple, perhaps even childish experience. However, I discovered something far more complex, something significantly more nuanced than I had anticipated. Minecraft, it turns out, is not just about placing blocks randomly. It is fundamentally about understanding interconnected systems. It is about recognizing cause and effect in a dynamic environment. Your actions within this world have direct and often immediate consequences. If you fail to adequately prepare for the dangers of the night, you will inevitably suffer. This is a valuable lesson applicable to real life. The game also effectively teaches resource management skills. Within Minecraft, you have a limited amount of time in each day-night cycle. You also have access to finite resources, at least locally. You are constantly forced to make choices and set priorities. Do you spend your time gathering more wood for building? Or should you focus on hunting for food to replenish your hunger? Perhaps exploring the surrounding area is more important. Every single decision you make involves a trade-off. This is a core concept of basic economics. Scarcity and choice, presented in a remarkably accessible and engaging format. Even a child can grasp these principles here. Furthermore, the game actively encourages and rewards problem-solving abilities. You will constantly face new challenges. How do I reach that tantalizing ore vein on a high ledge? How can I best defend my newly built base from hostile creatures? How do I locate those rare and valuable diamonds deep underground? To succeed, you absolutely have to think critically. You must be willing to experiment with different approaches. And crucially, you have to learn from your inevitable mistakes. Failure is not just a setback. It is an integral part of the learning process. It motivates you to try harder. It compels you to think smarter. And, as I have mentioned previously, it undeniably teaches creativity. The tools provided by the game are, at their core, quite simple, just various types of blocks. But the structures and contraptions that players can build with these blocks are often anything but simple. It serves as a powerful testament to the idea that with basic components, one can create immense complexity. One can even create genuine beauty. It is a celebration of human ingenuity and inventiveness, even when expressed within a digital, pixelated realm. This is not a trivial observation. It is quite profound. Section 7. The final block: overall impressions and future adventures. So, after my foray into this blocky domain, what is my final verdict on Minecraft? I must concede that it is a surprisingly engaging piece of software. It is certainly much more than just a simple game designed for children. It possesses an unexpected depth. It offers genuine challenges that require thought and planning. And it has a strange, yet undeniable, blocky charm that grows on you. I freely admit, I was largely incorrect in my initial skeptical assessment. Playing Minecraft is not necessarily a complete waste of time. Not entirely, anyway. The sheer freedom offered by the game can feel somewhat daunting at first. There are no clearly defined goals handed to you. There is very little hand-holding or explicit guidance. But this, I now believe, is also one of its greatest strengths. It effectively forces you to become self-reliant. It encourages you to set your own personal objectives. It empowers you to find your own sources of fun and satisfaction. This is, in itself, a valuable experience, especially in a modern world that often tends to overguide, and perhaps even overprotects individuals from challenge. Would I consider playing Minecraft again in the future? The answer is, perhaps. I can certainly see the appeal much more clearly now. The allure of its endless creative possibilities is strong. The deep satisfaction that comes from building something tangible, even digitally, is real. The thrill of overcoming the various challenges the game throws at you is rewarding. It is actually a rather good way to exercise your brain, to hone your problem-solving skills, to stretch your creative muscles. I might even attempt to build a better house next time, maybe a 2-story structure, perhaps with a nice balcony. Minecraft is, without a doubt, a unique cultural phenomenon. It has successfully captured the hearts and imaginations of millions of people around the globe. And after my own experience, I can now genuinely understand why it has achieved such widespread appeal. It is, on one level, a vast digital sandbox for play. But it is also, on another level, an effective teacher. It subtly teaches resilience in the face of adversity. It teaches the importance of careful planning. And it teaches that even in a world made of simple blocks, you can indeed achieve great and impressive things. Facts. And that truly is my final thought.